On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are changing the narratives about them, and Klay Thompson's introductory press conference proved a lot of that. We'll talk about all that and more today. It's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. The best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Let me know what was one thing that stood out to you in Klay Thompson's introductory press conference. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today, talking all about Klay Thompson. I know Quentin Grimes and Najee Marshall were at the press conference as well. I was there. I know. I was there. I saw them both. We'll talk about them a little bit tomorrow. But today I want to talk all about Klay Thompson. We'll talk about why he chose the number 31. Kind of a funny way that he got to 31 a little bit. And a cool Mavs angle to it as well. We'll talk about why he thinks he'll fit. He answered a couple questions about why he thinks he'll fit with the Mavericks. Remember when he went to his introductory, or he went to the dinner with Nico Harrison and Michael Finley. He had watched film and everything. He was ready. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about him and Kyrie and how Kyrie had a play in all of this. But I got to start here, and it kind of has to do with Kyrie too. The Mavericks narratives are changing about them. Think about some of the things you've heard said about the Dallas Mavericks over the last couple years, 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 4 years, 2 years, 1 year, last year. A lot of things have been said about the Dallas Mavericks. Things like, well, hey, nobody wants to play with Luka Doncic. Well, nobody wants to come to the Dallas Mavericks. 9 years ago, yesterday, I'm recording this on Thursday night, July 9th. 9 years ago, the reports were going around that Mark Cuban was driving around downtown Houston trying to get in touch with DeAndre Jordan, because DeAndre Jordan had agreed to a deal with the Dallas Mavericks and then went back on it, got locked in the house with the Clippers. They were all in there. Then Blake Griffin posted the infamous picture of the chair on the back of the door, propping it closed. And whether that story was true or not with Mark Cuban, that was the thing. And that story kind of encapsulated a narrative about the Dallas Mavericks. They don't get the free agents. If you haven't been a Mavs fan for very long, ask a longtime Mavs fan that you know. Or ask them in the chat, or ask them in the YouTube comments or on Twitter. How do they feel when a free agent is connected to the Mavericks? Oh, they're using us for leverage. I thought that about this Klay Thompson thing. My first read on it was that it was leverage on both sides. Oh, this free agent is using the Mavericks again. Why? Because they've been over and over again. The narrative about the Mavericks is they don't get the free agents. People don't cheat. Players don't choose the Mavericks. And so now you get Klay Thompson, who chose the Mavericks over the Lakers, and everything was going against them. Everything. Klay is from LA. His dad is a former player there and a longtime beloved broadcaster there. The Lakers had more money. They were going to offer him more years. They have LeBron James. They have insane weather and like insane, just things that Dallas could never offer. They have an ocean. Klay's a huge boat guy, huge like water sport guy. They have that. Every celebrity ever lives there. There's so many opportunities for him to be part of a bunch of cool things that are happening there, blah, 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 all that. He chose Dallas. Why? Why did he choose Dallas? Well, he told us today.
Whether you play basketball or work in the corporate world or whatever industry, sometimes change just can spur greatness, and a new change of scenery can do wonders. And I'm very grateful for my time at Golden State, but I just felt like moving on could just re-energize me and do something special for the rest of my career. And Dallas was so attractive because of the young players they have, the style of play, the world-class treatment these players get from this organization, and just a beautiful city who loves their hoops. So when I was watching the playoffs and I'm watching the Mavs, make a run for the championship, I just saw myself fitting in really well with this team and the personnel, and they look like they have fun playing with each other and they play for each other, and that was very attractive for me, and that's really all I needed to see, and there's mutual interest there, and that's why I'm here.
Think about all the things you've heard about the Mavericks or that you've said about the Mavericks over the last couple of years. Nobody's going to want to play with Luka Doncic the way that they play. The style that they play, the pound the rock, nobody's going to want to play with that. Why would anyone want to come to Dallas? All they care about is the Cowboys there. That's all they talk about. That's all their sports media talks about is the Cowboys. They dominate everything. That Mavs team, all they have is just these older players, and they got to get younger, and they don't take the draft seriously. And the Mavericks, do they treat players well? Like, what's Mark Cuban doing over there? This Mavs team is not a title contender. Klay Thompson checked all of those boxes in that answer. Talked about the young players, group of young players that he wanted to play with. The Mavs have youth now. The Mavs have interesting young talent. When's the last time we could say that? The style of play he specifically mentioned. He could see himself playing in there. How they treat players. This one I don't think was in question that much, but how the Mavs treat players is a thing that's going around the league. That Klay Thompson knew the Mavs treat players well, and it worked out for players like Kyrie. And now he chose the Mavericks. A city that loves hoops. What a quote from Klay Thompson. City that loves their hoops. You know that. I know that. People outside of Dallas would go, oh, it's just a Cowboys town. Cowboys dominates everything. Well, this year, they're not going to dominate anything. Run, CD. Run. City that loves hoops. They look like they want to play for each other. They play for each other. The fun style of play, how they play, how they approach the game. Oh, all Luka does is complain and whine, and it just looks exhausting to play with him. What about that anonymous scout that's like, every time Luka leaves the game, all the other players on the court breathe a sigh of relief? Get out of here. They play for each other, and they are a title contender. Imagine that. Last season, where was everybody putting the Mavericks? Oh, they'll miss the playoffs again. They missed it last year, so they're going to miss it again this year. Title contender. Think about all those things Klay Thompson said in that answer. Do I have to play it again? Young players, style of play, how the Mavs organization treats players, city that loves hoops, having fun, looking like they play for each other. Title contender. Woo. That's a good thing to hear if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan. Think about all the stuff you've been through over the last 10, 15 years, even 2 years, even last year. You and I sat here listening to this podcast, me on this podcast, after they lost twice to the Hornets in a row. And I sat back in my chair like this, looking befuddled and bewildered about how this team with a top 5 player missed the entire postseason. 10 teams, and they missed it. And now Klay Thompson, one of the top free agents in the class, said, I want to go to the Dallas Mavericks because they're a title contender. Think about how far they've come. And you've got to give credit to Nico Harrison, to Jason Kidd, yes, to Mark Cuban for putting them in charge and for stepping away. Stepping away and letting Nico and Jason Kidd do what they do, and then selling part of the team and really stepping out of the way. And the new ownership for not meddling and for not getting in the way. And now Mavericks have a streamlined source of leadership. They have established leadership with contract extensions for Jason Kidd. They've got Jason Kidd, who players around the league, for all the stuff that I said, all the criticism I gave Jason Kidd this season, never said players didn't want to play for him. That was never a thing. Players want to play for him. Mavs have a coach that players want to play for. That was not the case with Rick Carlisle all the time. Mavs changed their narrative. Think about all the things Klay Thompson just said. Think about all the things people have said about the Mavericks over the last couple of years, last 10 years. The Mavericks narrative is changing. And coming up, I'll tell you how Luka's narrative is changing and what Klay Thompson said about him. More stuff with Klay. We'll talk about all that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by one of my favorites, Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use the code Locked On. Go check out, see what's available at Game Time. There's all kinds of great stuff on Game Time. I use it all the time. I literally used it. I used it to go to a Dallas Wings game the other day. You've got the Home Run Derby right now. You can go watch the Home Run Derby in Globe Life Field. The All-Star game. Okay. Raise your hand if you did not know that the MLB All-Star game was in Texas, was in Arlington, in the Ranger Stadium this weekend. I think I knew that they had the All-Star weekend. I don't think I knew when it was. It's this weekend. The Home Run Derby's... It's not a weekend. It's the Home Run Derby's on Monday. I'm all kinds of realizations, and it's all because of Game Time. Use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off. That you can get views from your seats for the Home Run Derby. They have tickets for $141. They have tickets for a Cowboys game coming in October for $47. If you want to go check out that, all kinds of stuff, concerts as well. GameTime.com. Use that code Locked On NBA. Create an account. Use that code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate you for doing that. If you want to support the show, text me. Get text alerts from me on Mavs rumors. Watch film with me on more kind of stuff. I'll probably do some Klay Thompson film things later in the week and do some more stuff like that. But I've been sending you rumors. I sent you a bunch of quotes that I love from the press conference today. All that kind of stuff. Subscribe to the subtext 214-643-8637. You can text that number. Click the link in the description. Everything's in the description wherever you're listening, watching this. All right. Klay Thompson, the Mavericks, changing their narrative. I thought that the answer of Klay Thompson, why he chose the Mavericks, just checked so many boxes for things that either we complained about the Mavericks or that other people complained about the Mavericks. The Mavs are changing their narrative. You'd love to see it. With Luka Doncic, same kind of thing. There have been narratives about Luka Doncic. Oh, this game is just, nobody's going to want to play with Luka because of the way he plays. Oh, Luka, all he does is whine and complain. What did Klay Thompson say about him?
He texted me saying how excited he is, and I relay the same message back, and I think there's definitely a mutual respect there. I mean, I remember seeing him at the end of the West Finals in 2022, and I told him just how much I loved his game and how he really elevates his teammates, and sky's the limit for his ability. And I think that resonated well with him, and he was real gracious in defeat. And I just appreciate someone who is not afraid of the moment and competes till the end, and Luka fits that bill. So I think we'll be able to bring the best out of each other. I really do.
Luka Doncic, Klay Thompson respected his game, makes his teammates better, gracious in defeat. Think about some of the things that have been said about Luka. Oh, all he does is whine and complain. Oh, does he elevate the teammates around him, or all he does is just stat pad? Klay Thompson, after the West Finals, when the Warriors dominated the Mavericks, it was very much like the NBA Finals this past year. I was there, where they dominated them. But Luka came out and he fought every single game and he tried hard every single game. Klay Thompson, I have respect for his game. He makes his teammates better, gracious in defeat. Luka Doncic, making waves across the NBA and changing his narrative. And it's a narrative that is made by, media and by other fans and all that. But it's good to see the difference between what fans say and what the league is saying, or what Klay Thompson is saying. And yes, now he's his teammate, and of course he's going to say positive things about him, but he didn't have to say all that. He could have said, man, remember when Draymond Green and Chris Paul became teammates? And they're like, yeah, I hated this guy. I didn't really want to be teammates with him. But Klay Thompson said a bunch of great things about Luka at the end of the 2022 playoff run, where he goes, hey, I respect his game. He makes his teammates better, gracious in defeat. Love that kind of stuff from Klay Thompson. And I think that changing Luka's narrative is important too, as he's stepping up, as he's becoming a leader. And at Klay, I think the most important thing was at the end. I think we'll both get the best out of each other. I agree with that too. Getting the best out of each other. Luka's going to have more space to operate. Luka's going to have a guy that can actually knock down threes when he throws these crazy passes. Klay is a master at finding open spots on the floor. Luka's going to create those. And for Klay Thompson, he's going to get a bunch of open shots in a way that he hasn't before. And I know I keep saying that, but it's going to be true. And I'm excited to watch it and excited to see how it all plays out. Kyrie Irving. Talk about changing narratives. Kyrie has changed his own narrative for sure. The Mavericks have helped him do that. But Kyrie now reached out to Klay Thompson. That's been a big part of this whole story. And I think that's something that needs to be mentioned too.
Kyrie and I are good friends. I mean, we came to the league together in 2011. We played on Team USA together twice. Obviously, played against each other in the highest stages for many years. And I've always been a fan of Kai's game, and guarding him was hell. So it's nice to be on the other end of that for once and see other defenders get loose and get shook by him. That's going to be a good sight to see. He actually was one of the first people to text me just how grateful he is to be here and how the city's embraced him, the organization's embraced him, especially after what he had to go through. And I've known Kai for a long time, and he's been super down to earth ever since I met him, and just a very gracious person. And for him to come here and embrace the city and embrace the role he has just inspired me, because, I mean, they were so close to winning the whole thing. And, you know, I think we can help get them over that hump.
Can get him over that hump. You love to hear that, but you love to hear about all the stuff that Kyrie had been through. Kyrie took all that experience, took everything that had happened to him, where the Mavericks embraced him, the city embraced him, the team embraced him, allowed him to be who he was, told that to Klay Thompson. He goes, actually, that sounds pretty good. Actually, that sounds like somewhere I want to be. What did he say at the beginning? Sometimes change can spur greatness, and a new change of scenery can do wonders. Moving on could re-energize me and do something special for the rest of my career. That's what he's going to do with Kyrie and Luka. He gets to have the opportunity to do what Kyrie just did in a different way. Klay was in a spot where he was frustrated. He had come to the end of his tenure there with the Warriors. He had done everything that was possible with that group. That group was coming to an end. It needed to end at a certain point. All groups do. Decided to end, and he's like, all right, now I want to go somewhere else. And Kyrie Irving goes, hey, man, it's pretty good over here. Changing the narrative for the Mavericks. How about that? But you got to love that Kyrie Irving had a play in this. That Kyrie Irving was a crucial part in this. That Kyrie Irving was part of recruiting Klay Thompson here. That he was, reaching out on behalf. Think about a year ago now. Kyrie Irving was not signed to the Mavericks. He was a free agent. He was unrestricted. There's rumors that he was going to go to the Lakers all the time. And now maybe that's just Brian Windhorst wanting that to happen. Maybe that was just Windhorst of ESPN wanting Kyrie to go to the Lakers. But I'm sure he wouldn't report that if there wasn't any smoke to it. Oh, the Mavs are going to lose another guy to the Lakers. Oh, here comes the Suns. Where are they coming from? And I thought that was all leverage then. It ended up being true. But now he chose the Mavs. Klay chose the Mavs and didn't choose the Lakers. And we're all happy about that, right? Love that. I love how Kyrie was part of this. And I love that Luka and Kyrie, in their own ways, are changing their narratives, and that this whole thing is part of that. That Klay Thompson is now part of that story for them. Luka and Kyrie changed their own narratives, making the finals, winning together, getting to the highest level, overcoming some obstacles. Luka fighting through injury. Kyrie having no issues on or off the court the whole season. Nothing anything close. That was the narrative about Kyrie. Oh, well, eventually he's going to be a problem. I don't know. We'll see. Even if he is a problem after this, just getting to the finals, okay, you'll take that. The trade was still worth it. Contract was still worth it to have him here to make the finals. Even just that one time. That doesn't happen for teams all the time. Got to go back and appreciate that. That run was so special. Yes, they came up short, but man, a finals doesn't happen all the time. The Clippers would kill for a finals right now. They just lost Paul George. They ain't getting back there anytime soon. Clippers talk about their Western Conference Finals run that they got with Paul George when Kawhi was hurt, when they beat the Mavs in the first round. They talk about that all the time. Kings talk about their 2002 Western Conference Finals run. Mavs have been to a finals. It's crazy. Changing narratives. I thought that all that stuff was great. Just Klay Thompson coming in and being like, pow, 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 pow. Here's all these things that have been said about the Mavs, and here's all the things that I think about them, and the reason why I chose them is the opposite of all those things that have been said. Coming up, Let's get into why Klay thinks he's a fit. I think he answered a couple things and gave the quote of the day. I'll tell you what that is coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
All right, let's get into the quote of the day for me from Klay Thompson. Was about what he thinks he can bring to the Mavericks and what kind of player he thinks he is at this point in his career. I thought this was awesome.
At this point in my career, I mean, still can't leave me open.
Nope.
And I can guard, and I'm just excited. I still think I can do what I've been able to do, and it's just about being in the best shape I can possibly be. But I know I can help this team, whether it's the knowledge I've gained or big scoring nights. I just still know I can be a very, very good player in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely he can be a good player in this league. But the quote of the day, still can't leave me open. Still can't leave me open. 100%. You got to love that part of it. Because that's all the Mavericks need him to do. Those other guys sitting next to him, Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, they can come in and help the defense when they need it. PJ Washington, Derek Lively, they'll step up and help the defense. Klay Thompson just got to fit into a spot. Got to fit as a piece of the defense. If it all works well together and you get all three of those guys, Luka, Kyrie, and Klay, working together, playing their role on defense, the defense will work out. They needed an offensive boost badly. Michael Finley mentioned earlier in the presser that even in the losses to other teams, not just the losses to the Celtics, the front office went, hey man, like we could use some more offense. Like this is not working for us. We need to figure something out. And Tim Hardaway Jr. wasn't it, and so he gets traded, and then Klay gets brought in basically in place of him. And to me, that's an upgrade. Can't leave me open. Think about who you could leave open on the Mavericks last year. Derek Jones Jr., yes. PJ Washington, at times, yes. At times, no. But at times, yes. Josh Green got left open. Maxey got left open all the time. Half of those guys are gone. Klay Thompson, can't leave me open. The other one, this question I asked him about what was one thing that was so frustrating to him that he's ready to leave behind and that he's excited to try to break through. And he kind of answered it, but I think that his answer actually gave us something a little more interesting about why he thinks he'll fit with the Mavs.
Well, with guys like Luka and Kyrie on the floor, I think just me being out there is going to give them a lot of space to operate. And same with our big men. I mean, and Derek and Daniel, just their ability to roll and finish is also great. I play really well with big men who, like me and Trace Jackson, had a great rapport last year because he's so good at the rim, and I saw the same thing with those two guys. And I just I don't think you can stick to me as much as you could in the past with guys like Luka and Kai out there, and that's what also was very attractive for me.
So we talked about how he fits with Luka and Kyrie, how Luka and Kyrie are going to create open shots for him, how he's going to create space for them, and all that. And I think that's true. And he said that he reiterated that again at the end of that statement, where he said, "Yeah, I mean, people aren't going to be able to stick to me as close as they did in Golden State because in Golden State, you got to do all this ball movement, do all this stuff, and when it works right, and when everybody's on the same page, all of a sudden you can create a bunch of open shots, and it really works for you. When it doesn't, all of a sudden, hey, like it would be nice if we could have a guy that breaks somebody down off the dribble." And create something. If you listen to this episode of this show when Kylan Mills from Locked On Warriors was on here, Kylan mentioned specifically Klay Thompson did really well last year when he was playing off the bench next to Chris Paul. Just needed a guy to break down a team off, break down a defender off the dribble and then create an open shot. Curry, not necessarily his game. He can do that, but that's not necessarily his game and not the offense that Curry has designed around Curry and Klay. And then Draymond was missing for some games too, and so you don't have that playmaker that creates that makes those passes and creates those plays and things like that. He was the guy that actually really kind of ran their offense with his passing because he needed that. And so Klay did really well and thrived last year when he was playing next to Chris Paul. Well, how much better is Luka Doncic than Chris Paul at doing those things? The other part of that, though, so we mentioned the Luka and Kyrie. The other part of that, though, that I think is interesting and that we haven't talked about a lot is Klay being able to play with bigs. Do you know the tallest player on the Warriors right now? The tallest player on the Warriors last year? Trace Jackson Davis, who you mentioned before. measured at the combine, 6'8" 3/4 inches without shoes. The Warriors do not have bigs. I know Locked On Warriors last year was complaining about that a lot. They just didn't have bigs. They didn't have guys that were actual centers, and they didn't ever want to get 7-footers. And ever since, Zaza and Zaza and JaVale McGee have been gone from there, feels like they don't have any big men, like actual real big men. And so he talks about playing with them because vertical gravity, their roll gravity. I think that's going to be something that's going to help him too, with a guy that can roll all the time, Lively and Gafford. He mentioned them by name, first names, but still. He mentioned them, that when they roll to the basket, that's going to create open opportunities for Klay as well. I think that's something that's exciting too, and exciting for him. And I think that's something that is interesting to kind of note as well. Not only is he going to be playing with great playmakers, he's going to be playing with great rim rollers, and those guys are going to create for him as well. And remember how good Lively is in the short roll. It's not just Luka creating these open shots. Lively comes up, sets a screen for Luka. Lively rolls to the basket. Luka gets double teamed or a delayed double or delayed help or whatever. Luka throws the pass over the top. Lively gets the pass right in the middle or at the free throw line. The help comes from either corner. Who are you helping off of? Huh? Who are you helping off of? Help off PJ? Okay. The other option is Klay Thompson. You helping off of Klay Thompson? Okay, that creates an opportunity for Lively to get to the rim. Klay to relocate if the defender comes over and helps, and then that's a wide open shot. But Lively makes the right passes. That was one of his superpowers last year. Passing out of the short roll. Amazing. Love that stuff. You could tell that Klay Thompson had really thought about playing with the Mavericks. And we knew that. That was a report that he came with, he had watched film, and he said a couple times, I haven't played the clips, but he said that a couple times in this that he was watching the finals and he was just thinking man, I would fit in with this team. He could envision it and see where he could play on the court and all that. Last thing I want to get to is why he chose the number 31. And I just found it kind of interesting because the story about Reggie Miller had been out there. Reggie Miller was 31, and he mentions Reggie Miller. And the answer to this question also just gives you a little insight into who Klay is, because it was just kind of like stream of consciousness up there, and I kind of found it pretty endearing.
Well, Kyrie took my number, so I was pretty... No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's a change for me, so I'm not mad at the change. I'm actually excited for it. I mean, there's been a lot of great 31s in this franchise history. Jason Terry won a championship wearing that number, and we play very similar style as far as the off-guard position, spacing the floor, shooting. So he had a great year with them. Who else? I mean, Nick wore 31 here? Wow. I don't remember the Nick days when he was on the Mavs, huh? That's right. They had a good year with him too. But love Nick, the quick. But I mean, Reggie Miller wore 31, and I watched so much footage of Reggie coming off screens as a teenager, especially his game-winning, his ability to make game-winning shots. I mean, it's an inspiring thing to see as a shooter, because he had no fear whether he made or missed the shot, live or die by it. And I still have that image of him in the East Finals, pushing off Mike, curling off the right wing and cashing that three. I mean, that's how I modeled my game after, just being able to space the floor, and you can't leave me open like you could Reggie, and that was an inspiration for me as well. And I thought I'd have a chance to pass him in threes made, so that'd be a cool way to honor someone who really paved the way for a shooter like me.
So you can kind of hear Klay Thompson, though, he's kind of working through it as he's talking through. But to pay an homage to Reggie Miller, he's probably going to pass him in threes made. So that's a cool thing for him. I thought that was interesting that he wanted to honor him with that number, as he probably passes him in most threes made. And then Jason Terry, the Jet. Jason Terry wore 31. I thought that was interesting as well. That hadn't really been mentioned, that there have been some great 31s. Nick Van Exel was also really great. Maverick that had played. Obviously, I'm very partial to him. That's why it came up with my Twitter name. And so I think that is an interesting thing. They made the Western Conference Finals, went to 6 games with the Spurs in 2003. That's the year that he was talking about, where he's like, oh, they had a pretty good year that year too. Yeah, they did. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff from Klay Thompson. That's what I think about Klay Thompson. That's what I think about the Klay Thompson presser. The Mavs are changing their narrative, and I think that there's some great stuff in there. Tomorrow I'll be back talking more about the Najee Marshall and Quentin Grimes side of things, and probably talking about some more things too. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked on Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!